Representative Nicole Malliotakis held a press event on Thursday with family members of 9/11 victims to call for the Senate to pass legislation to, quote, rectify a wrong. The New York Republicans spoke about House-passed legislation that would compensate these family members who had been left out of previous rounds of compensation. Malliotakis spoke about where she was on that fateful day and how the country responded after the attacks. The legislation passed the House on an overwhelmingly bipartisan basis with 400 yeas and only 31 nays.
Thank you for coming out today. I want to thank those who are helping out efforts to rectify a wrong in our society, in our country, in the way that some 9/11 families were treated by Congress, by our government, and this effort is all about righting a wrong. Today I'm joined by widows who lost their husbands on September 11th. They served in the FDNY, they served in the NYPD. They are the people that we consider heroes in our city and that are revered by so many New Yorkers. And 21 years ago, they gave their life to save others, as they always do, willing to risk their life. And it was something that was a tragedy. It was a horrific terrorist attack on our nation. And we owe it to these families to make sure that they and their children were cared for after losing the individuals who were most usually the main provider for their families. Though 21 years have passed, the pain experienced by these families has not gone away. It's an unimaginable loss. I was 21. I was 20 years old at that time, and I remember that day vividly. I was in Lower Manhattan on the express bus. I thought an earthquake had hit our city, and I remember like it was yesterday. And I know these families obviously do too, particularly because of the pain that they endured in the months and years and the decades now since. There was a law that was established after 9/11 that gave individuals who lost their loved ones compensation under the United States Victims of State-Sponsored Terrorist Fund. All right, majority of this was seized assets taken from terrorist organizations, and the exclusion of widows and children from this fund was an injustice that Congress should have never allowed to happen. As a result of their initial exclusion, 5,364 widows, widowers, and children missed first two payments, creating a massive disparity between their restorative justice payments and others included. For nearly 6 months, my office has worked together with victims groups, victims themselves, including many of those behind me today, and lawmakers on both sides of the aisle. We drafted and introduced the language that was passed last Friday in August. And that was the work of collectively of the individuals who are here, who were really passionate. They came to Washington, they explained to my staff and I what had occurred here, and we were set to fix it. And this is something they have been fighting for years. There was a correction done a while back, a couple of years ago, but they were still, even when they brought in the widows and children, they still did not receive the first two payments. So this bill was about catching it up to make sure that they are in parity with all the other victims of the state-sponsored terrorists and the terrorist attacks of 9/11. So my bill, which was word for word introduced again by Jerry Nadler, and he added a paragraph to it, was able to get it passed. And that's what this is about. When Harry Truman once said, it's amazing what you can accomplish when you do not care who gets the credit. And this case is no different. So many people have come together across the political spectrum to correct a wrong. And I'm so proud to have played a part in this, to making sure that these family members get the justice that they deserve. Now today we're here to celebrate the passage of this bill that they have fought for so many years. But we still needed to pass the Senate. And, that's also why we're here today, to call on the Senate to pass this bill. It's been so many years, and I'll let the families talk about this, and what they've had to go through to try to get this wrong corrected. But it's the right thing to do. This is an issue about fairness. It's an issue about parity. It's about being there for the 9/11 families that lost their loved ones and our first responders, our heroes, on that dreadful day.